I think we're live. Let me know if you guys can see me in there. This is always the hardest part, is waiting for everybody to show up. I do see, Lisa, I see your comments, and Shell, I see your comments too. So hopefully what that means is that all of the chat issues are cleared up. That would be very nice. Yay! I see people. I see peeps. That makes me happy. The sound scared you? Well, I thought, okay, you know, we're in September. The weather's starting to get very cool out. I needed my fireplace, and I do have the cute little cauldron fire going too. So I'm like 100,000,000% ready for fall. I am ready for leaves and pumpkins and sweaters and all sorts of amazing cold weather activities, like creeping around in haunted places when you're not sweating and worried about spiders. That's my favorite thing on the planet. Yay. Okay, I see that lots of people are in there. I'll give everybody else a few more minutes just to sort of like drift in, because I know, let me move this so it's not buzzing. I know we have, the weather in Ohio is the weirdest weather I've ever experienced in my entire life. I'm, as most of you know, originally from Canada. So I'm used to like this time of year being when it gets cold. It's starting to get cold around this time of year, and I love it, and it's my favorite thing on the planet. But our first fall in Cincinnati was the most traumatizing experience of my life, because it was like Halloween and it was still muggy and humid outside. And I was distraught because it meant that I couldn't wear hoodies and I couldn't have cute boots on, because if I did, I would be a gross, sweaty mess. So I am daydreaming about fall. I'm ready for that nice weather and for this humidity to go away, because it does not agree with me. I don't think it really, for most people, agrees with them either. Like, I feel like a majority of people are obsessed with fall in the same way that I am. And then when it comes to like the summer, they're like good with it for like a month. And then once it gets hot and gross out, you just don't want to deal with it. And so I feel like I'm not the only one. Also, hopefully everyone has their tea with them or whatever beverage that they're drinking, because I do. I'm rocking some chamomile tea in my mug because I kind of feel a little possible cold coming on. Hopefully not. Let's pray. No. All right, so I'm gonna get started, and everyone else can kind of drift in as they feel, because we have a lot to cover today. So I have the book. I apologize if you've never been to a Magic of the Month Club class before. This is probably because there will be a few people who are here for the very first time. So if you're here for the first time, I always have my book. My book is full of my notes that I take. I like writing out classes by hand, because I feel like it gives me more time to think about what I'm teaching and how I want to kind of share that information. So I see you in there, Dawn. I can see you typing. I don't know. Maybe try logging out and then logging back in again. But yeah, I love to write everything out by hand. So you're probably gonna, again, if this is your first class, which I know for most of you it isn't, I'll be looking down and kind of all over the place. And it's just because I like to make sure I'm hitting up all my notes. So the last class, we talked a lot about herbs, and it's something that I kind of want to continue bringing with us into the next class. So we are going to dedicate part of tonight's class to talking about herbs. We're going to talk about some magical tools, and then a special announcement. But before that, we're going to begin with our sacred space. So at the beginning of every single class, we've pretty much been kind of expanding upon a sacred space ritual. That's the sound of Gordon scratching on a scratchy post. Now stopped. But yeah, we've sort of been talking a lot about a sacred space, and really it's kind of a meditation. It's a progression on a meditation that I've been doing for a long time. And so hopefully you've caught up on all of your classes, because again, we kind of begin every single class with a bit of a kind of expansion upon it. So with that being said, I'm going to jump right in. So the last class, we talked a lot about something that I call the door, and it probably could have a cooler name, maybe. I don't know. I just feel like the door is kind of like straightforward and we know what we're talking about. But maybe if you think my names are super lame, let me know and I'll definitely try to come up with some cooler names. So last class we talked about the door. This door led us to a very special room in our sacred space. So again, we've kind of, hold on, I see Greg is posting the link to Magic of the Month right now. So yeah, last class we talked about the door. The door is, it led us to a very special place in our sacred space, ritual and meditation. So it led us to a special room in our sacred space, the room with our book or tomb or volume, whatever you want to call it. And basically the purpose of this specific book is sort of an oracle of sorts. And it's a book that's specific to us. It doesn't belong to anyone else. It belongs completely to us. And we can use it as a means to learn more about ourselves and kind of delve deep into our subconscious mind. So for some people, they might like to use it as an oracle. So they could stand in front of it and ask a question and open it. And whatever kind of imagery comes out is something that they need to be thinking about, even on an unconscious level. So I really like using this as a meditation tool because I feel like it really helps us strengthen our trust with our unconscious mind. So again, we found our room with our volume, our tomb, our book. This is a special book. It's an oracle for us to give us insight into ourselves. This is our book. But interestingly enough, there are many books that we can tap into for insight and guidance. So when we're talking about all of these concepts, we're really working with the astral plane. We're working with a space that exists sort of, again, in an astral environment. So we're not talking about a physical book, there are people that basically, yay, I see all the people kind of flooding in now. Good. But yeah, we're talking about something on an astral level. So this is a part of meditation that it works really well. The more you kind of learn how to develop your visualizations, the more you can kind of give these rooms and these places and these objects dimension and color and smell and anything that you can add to it. All of those things will help us to learn more about ourselves and to continue kind of working those visualization muscles. And we've talked about it before in classes, but visualization is really the key to good magic. Being able to visualize all of the things that are happening around us help us get in touch with our emotions, and our emotions are what help push our intention out there and help us to manifest and create a lot easier. So with that being said, stick to my notes. So this is our book, but there are many books that we can tap into for insight and guidance. So what we're going to do now at this point, if we remember from our past class, we were in this room that was very plain. The only thing that was in the room was sort of a stand, which had our book on top of it. But what I want to happen now is I want you to start to notice that there seems to be some sort of golden, kind of shimmering starlight that is, and here, I'll use the book as an example, is sort of beginning to, manifest out of the book. It's like a fog almost, like a starlight fog that's starting to rise up out of your book. So you're going to begin to notice that your book's pages are twinkling and glittering with beautiful glowing light, almost like star-infused fog that begins to emanate from the pages. So it's going to start glowing from the page. This starlight begins to drift off the page as if it has a mind of its own. So really visualize whatever colors you want to visualize, if it's golden, if it's silver, purple, anything that will help you kind of like tap into that mindset anymore. Like just trust yourself. If it's a weird color, that's totally fine. You can change it. You can visualize it however you want. But usually I kind of like to stick with like silvers and golds and purples because I feel like they're really mystical, magical colors. So you're going to envision it almost like starting to come up out of your book as a star-infused fog, as I put it. So don't worry. This beautiful, glimmering, wispy light is going to lead us somewhere very special. Trust it. So in these moments when we're meditating and when we're kind of learning how to meditate and visualize, sometimes we can become overwhelmed by the experiences, especially when they start beginning to kind of do their own thing, and that can be overwhelming for a lot of people and scary. You never have to be afraid, especially with this meditation. All of these techniques are safe, and you're really free to just kind of have fun and throw yourself into the experience. So don't be afraid. Follow this beautiful kind of golden light, because it's going to take us somewhere pretty cool. So don't worry about this beautiful glimmering wispy light. Where it's going to lead us, it's going to lead us somewhere very special. So this magical light will begin to stretch up and off the page and move off the page. Use your visualization muscles. Again, since kind of day one, we talked a lot about a visualization technique that I use called the apple, and it's very simple. It's really just visualizing an apple. And it sounds really simple, but it's actually a lot harder than you would think that it is, especially if you're kind of holding those visualizations for longer periods of time. Holding the image of an apple in your mind for a solid 5 minutes can be incredibly difficult, especially if you're someone who kind of is quick to lose focus. And I mean, it's hard for me too. If you can't do it, don't feel bad. It's hard for me too, but it's very good. It's a really good technique for kind of developing those visualization muscles, and that's what we're always trying to do. So see this wispy, beautiful golden light, or whatever color it is. See it begin to lead you into a direction of the room. So it's going to kind of come up off the page and begin kind of crawling down and moving towards one of the corners of this room. And as we know, up to this point, the room that we've been visualizing has been pretty bare. There's not really been much in it. For some people, they've seen it as kind of stone walls, or maybe wood, like almost like a cabin, but it's very bare. There's no decorations there. It's very simple. So up until now, our room has been very simple. It hasn't had many decorations in it, and that's other than our book, and that's pretty much it. But our magical light is going to lead us towards one of the walls of the room. So you're going to visualize, again, this light's going to kind of creep down and start moving towards one of the walls. And you're going to want to follow it and trust it. So this magical light is going to disappear into the wall as if there's nothing there. So it's literally going to pass right through what looks to be a solid wall. So you're going to see it just completely disappear. Follow it. This magical light is going to disappear into the wall as if there's nothing solid there. It's as if the wall is completely false. It's as if the wall in front of us is actually a hoax or a hologram, a false belief put there to keep those who believe that it's only just a wall out. So that's kind of a cool idea when we think about it, really. What I'm kind of asking you to do is look at the wall as something that's very symbolic. So the wall itself seems that it's not there, but it looks like it's there. So maybe it's some sort of protection to keep people who don't believe, in the idea of kind of magic and moving throughout space and time. So we're going to kind of talk a little bit more about that concept. So I have here, this is very symbolic and something I want everyone to think about a little bit. Our magic has led us to what appears to be a simple, mundane wall. But we know better because we trust our magic. So find more ways in your everyday life to trust your magic. You can use that as a sort of example that, obviously, I don't want everyone running into walls and stuff like that, like platform 9 3/4. But it's really symbolic for kind of trusting that sometimes what appears to be very mundane and kind of simple isn't, and that magic is happening all around us, and we can trust that it is happening all around us. So give yourself permission to see the magic happening and not just a boring old wall. Something much more exciting is happening all around us. So here we stand at our wall with our glittering foggy light that has led us to what looks like a solid wall. Take a leap of faith and take a step forward. And that's what we're going to do next. So we're going to take a step forward and we're going to walk right through this wall. So take a step forward, and as you do, imagine feeling a wonderful tingling sensation as your body passes through what looks like a solid object. You step out onto a landing. So we're going to walk through this solid wall, whatever wall it is that your twinkling light has led you to, and you can close your eyes if you want. You can leave your eyes open. It's completely up to you, but we're going to walk right through this wall, and we're going to step out onto a platform. And this platform In front of us, we're going to see a railing that's going to basically be overlooking something. So there's a railing in front of you and a staircase that leads down into a massive, ancient, and unbelievably beautiful library. We're going to visualize a beautiful, gigantic library. So from where you're standing, there are rows upon rows upon rows of ornate bookshelves and hundreds of ancient volumes. There are cozy spaces to read and crackling fireplaces like this one. There are places where you can sit kind of quietly if you want. And basically what we're doing right now is this library is, for me, very symbolic. And it's often referred to as the Akashic Records. So many people visualize the Akashic Records differently. And again, this is my interpretation of it. If you don't see it as a library, if you come out onto your landing and you see walls of scrolls or maybe parchment or whatever it is that you see, that's completely up to you. But for me, I've always visualized it as a giant library because it becomes very easy then for me to kind of move into different stacks of books and find sections that I kind of want to go to. So for people who don't know much about what the Akashic Records are or the idea behind the Akashic Records, Carrie says it's her version of heaven. And again, visual, we're going to talk a little bit more about this, but give this library every dimension and element that you want it to have. So the Akashic Records are often referred to as the source of unlimited knowledge. They're also, some people will call them the books of life. So I'm going to read this little passage here, but the Akashic Records are a compendium of all human events, thoughts, words, and emotion and intent that have ever happened in the past, present, or future. So basically, the idea is that this library exists on an astral plane and it is accessible to anyone who seeks it. So don't be surprised if you bump into other energies while you're there. It's basically the concept behind having access to everything that has ever existed and will ever exist. The information that exists in the past, the present, the future, in all dimensions, in all possible realities, are accessible through this idea of the Akashic Records. So they are literally the records of everything that you could ever want to know. And for a lot of metaphysicians, working towards finding the Akashic Records, finding a connection to it, and really being there, being a part of it, is for some people a lifelong practice. And really, once you're there, the idea is you're in a space in the astral where you are able to learn about anything that you could ever possibly ever want to learn about and more. So basically, anything that you could potentially want to learn. And that's, again, why I like to visualize it as a library, because for reference, it's a little bit easier to go, okay, well, let's say I want to get in touch with this aspect of magic. I would visualize myself finding that place in the Akashic Records and going there and finding volumes and finding books and maybe parchment, anything that you can kind of visualize, and let it happen on its own. You don't have to force it. If for you, again, it's not a library, it's a beautiful golden crystal space full of crystals, and maybe you'll pick up a crystal and one of those crystals will download that information to you. You can do it that way too. It's completely up to you. Don't or sigils, exactly. Lisa says sigils. However that information comes to you is wonderful. For me, whenever I'm there and whenever I'm doing meditation and I work to kind of get to the Akashic Records, I often find that when I pick up books, there could be sigils and words inside of it, but I might not be able to understand what they're actually saying. So what I do is I actually hold them to my chest when I'm meditating, and I just basically absorb the information from them. So sometimes it comes to me in pictures, sometimes it comes to me in sounds. It's really a very interesting place to access, especially in meditation, because there are so many different ways for us to learn about what it is that we want to know about, and being kind of open to the experience and trusting the experience is a big part of that, because I can teach you what feels good for me, but it might feel it might be something completely different for you, but really at the end of the day, if you can take anything away from that, it's really to trust yourself and to know that this space, because we've gotten to this space through our months at this point of practicing this meditation, this sacred space meditation. We've kind of gotten to this point where we are capable of actually getting to the Akashic records, getting to that space, because we've practiced these visualizations, and we've got this beautiful space that we've created for ourselves. So this is almost like a little string that leads us out of our sacred space into a very, very, very beautiful and unbelievable place that exists in the astral, that a lot of people have worked with and gone to learn. So let me keep reading here. So this library exists on the astral realm. This is accessible to anyone who seeks it. So again, don't be surprised if you bump into other energies there. Don't worry. Again, you know us, we were constantly talking about letting go of fears. And I think the thing is, when we kind of open ourselves up a little bit, it's easy for a lot of people to kind of jump in and be like, well, I don't want to bump into somebody or something there that I don't want to meet. That's kind of scary. I don't think that should be your intention going into this aspect of this meditation. Really trust that if you are going to bump into energies or people while you're there, put out the intention that you want them to be your guides or your ancestors or spirits that you have worked with or that are familiar with you. Entities and energies that are going to uplift you and help you raise your vibration. Nothing negative, nothing, we're not going to bring that into this meditation. So really focus on the possibility, again, of bumping into guides or family members or even animals. So don't worry, they will be your guides, your ancestors, or your soul family. Again, it might take a while for you to learn how to read these books. And again, reading might not even be the way that you do it. It could just, again, be like me, pressing them, against your heart center and absorbing that information. It might take a while to learn. Books might imprint feelings on you to teach you knowledge as opposed to reading them. Trust the process. Even just spending time alone in this place in your meditation will help you acclimate yourself to it. So even if you just want to go and sit in one of those chairs by the crackling fire for 15 minutes during your meditation, you're at least beginning to acclimate yourself with the space, what it feels like, what it looks like to you, and give it dimension. Look around and smell things and interact with things in that space, because I think that you'll find no, that's the fire crackling. But yeah, you'll trust that, the more you interact with the space and the more you feel brave enough to kind of look up and down some of the aisles and really interact with the space, I think you'll find that you'll begin to become curious and you'll want to kind of start exploring a little bit. So remember that it is that what we're doing here is working with a very sacred space that's full of love and knowledge, and is really meant for people to learn. And so don't be afraid. Let yourself expand into the space. Let yourself meet your guides there. Let yourself feel drawn to certain places. Maybe certain places inside of this space are calling to you because they really know that this is what you need to be learning. So trust it. Just trust the whole experience. And so that's where I'm going to end the sacred space meditation for now. I think it's a pretty good place to end. I considered not leading us all the way in yet, but I thought that would be too jerky. So yeah, as you're doing this meditation, let us know what your experiences are like. Hold on, I'm going to take a sip of my tea. Let us know what your experiences are like. I want to know what everything looks like visually to you. And I'm sure that everyone else in Magic of the Month does too. So practice that and let us know how it goes. And let us know if you bump into any different kinds of energies, or if you find new ways to download information, whether it be, from books or crystals, or you can even visualize them as computers if you want it. However works for you. You're completely allowed to have fun and play. So with that being said, we're going to move into the next section, which is herbs, because I want to touch on this a little bit more. So last class, we talked a lot about herbs, and we focused on some of the basics of herbal magic. And we talked about 7 of the most used and kind of safe herbs to, yay, Chris, you're going to meditate. Yay, you're going to love it. So start at the very, very beginning. You kind of got dumped in right about halfway through this big, huge meditation. So yeah, it's really fun, and just go with it. And if you have any questions, please put them in Magic of the Month. I can answer them, or other Magic of the Month Club members can answer. But yeah, don't be afraid. I know it sounds kind of intimidating because this is your first class, but in previous classes, you'll find kind of the rabbit hole that we've gone down with this meditation. So again, talking about, I don't know, it's so funny too, because I always do this. You guys are going to laugh so hard. Whenever I see a comment, because the comments are here on this side of it, whenever I see a comment, for some reason, I don't make eye contact with the camera when I'm talking to someone specifically. I look at their name. So if you see me looking off on the screen, it's because I'm literally looking at your names, for some reason thinking that you can tell that I'm looking at you. I have no idea why. Apparently, I think that you guys are all psychic and can see what I'm saying. I'm taking another sip of my tea. Okay, back to herbs. So we talked in the last class about the very, very basics of herbal magic, and we talked a lot about how it's one of the oldest and most, successfully used elements of magic, but it's also something that we kind of have to be careful with, because again, the plant kingdom, most of the things in the plant kingdom want to kill us. There's a lot of toxic and poisonous plants out there. So don't burn stuff you don't know about. Don't ingest stuff that you don't know about. Play it kind of safe. And I think that's one of the reasons why I kind of want to dedicate a few classes, or at least sections in a few classes, to talking about herbal magic, because it's so wonderful. And I want all of you to be as excited about it as I am. But I also want us all to be very, very safe. So I always make jokes that I love crystals, and people know, we all love crystals. And I love working with crystals. But what most people don't know about me is I actually prefer working with herbs and roots and flowers and things from the plant kingdom. And I'm kind of as much of a dork about collecting weird and random herbs as I am crystals, if not kind of way more, actually. So for me, getting to teach people about one of the things that I'm the most passionate about is really exciting. So I'm going to kind of jump in. And the way that I framed this is actually really fun. So we've had some time since the last class. My meditation is now 8 pages long. 8. That's great. I love it, because that means that really we're, it's something that I think is really connecting with people. And I know meditation can be hard, and I know visualization can also be really hard. So I always try to match the two together so that we're constantly developing our visualization techniques. So with that being said, herbs. So last class, we talked about the basics of herbs. Got my book again. We talked about a handful of very awesome and versatile flowers and herbs that have pretty amazing properties. Some pretty widely used herbs. They are pretty much constantly used all the time. So herbal magic has been used by countless cultures for thousands of years. Burning an herb alone is good, but when we begin to create blends and combinations, that's when we can become super specific. So this is the next step of what we're talking about in our herbal magic. We're going to talk about combining, and why we would combine, and what the purpose of it would be, and how it basically can help us really build out our rituals and spell work when it comes to being very specific. So I have to move my foot because it literally just fell asleep on me. I have a dead foot right now. Oh, that's bad. Okay. So with that, let's see. Oh my God. Bumping. Okay. So for now, we're going to focus on the same 7 herbs. So don't worry, we're not going to rush into a whole new group of herbs. We're going to stay kind of focused on the same 7. And again, this is really for me because I love teaching people about this, but I really, again, I'm kind of trying to hit home, and I know I probably don't need to do this with you guys, but that we're really always trying to learn as much about each one of the herbs that we're working with as we possibly can. And that's for safety reasons, but it's also for respect reasons. And you know, because I'm kind of a botany nerd, and I'm pretty sure that I can convince all of you to become botany nerds with me too. So let me see. For now, we're going to work with our same 7 herbs, but we're going to go over how we can begin to combine, make combos basically of those same 7 herbs for very specific purposes. So again, you're not going to have to run out and buy a whole bunch of new herbs, because we're going to be making some badass combinations, 3 specifically tonight, 3 different combinations using the herbs that we've already kind of mastered, and we know pretty much everything about them. So the very first combination that we're going to make using you know, snippets from our 7 herbs is going to be a protection against negative energy. So I don't know if you guys saw the video that I made on Instagram and Facebook, but it was basically sort of just like a very quick, easy protection and purification that I do quite often, probably about once a week, I would say. And there are a lot of herbs in that specific blend. This blend is only going to be 3, but it's just as powerful. It's just as potent. And it works really, really well to do the same thing. So basically, you're going to be able to tap into protection and purification energy. So here's our first blend. We're going to need bay leaves. We're going to need lavender. And we're going to need chamomile. So the bay leaves, as we talked a little bit about before, bay leaves are really wonderful for breaking hexes. They're really wonderful if you feel like someone is intentionally sending you some negative energy. Sometimes people do that even unconsciously. They don't always do it consciously. Sometimes people are just thinking bad things about you. And the unfortunate issue with that is that they're sending you bad energy. It's coming to you anyway. So this specific blend is really nice to make for clearing space, for clearing bedrooms. I like it for clearing bedrooms because it does smell very nice. It's not like a stinky smell. So again, we're talking about bay for breaking hexes and getting rid of that negative energy. Lavender purifies and protects. So it's going to bring in an element of protection, but what else it's going to be doing is it's going to be purifying any possible negative energy that's still there. So we're going to be clearing out that negative energy. And then chamomile is what we're going to bring in the end, because we want, now that we've kind of purified and cleansed the space, sometimes it can feel very, like very intense. And it's because we've been doing intense energy work and intense magic. So chamomile brings in peace and calm, and it will bring in kind of an element of clarity for you. So what is the third herb? The third herb is chamomile. So chamomile, it's wonderful. This blend is one of my absolute favorites. It's quickie and easy. You can literally just take a couple pinches of each and grind it up in your mortar and pestle, or whatever it is that you like to grind up your herbs with, and then you can burn it over charcoal. Someone was telling me the other day they had like an electric resin burner, which sounds kind of fun, but I'm old school and I like charcoal and kind of dressing candles and stuff like that. But I still think if you've got one of those, you maybe try it in one of those. But oh yeah, you can definitely use those 3 in and around animals. Don't smoke them out like crazy, because the animals kind of obviously animals don't really like smoke, but you can definitely put some in a censer or in a cauldron and do a quick smudge. Those 3 are lovely and wonderful, and they smell really, really good together. So one of the other things that I'm going to begin to bring in now with every class is, so when we're making our purification blend and our protection blend, the one that we just talked about, one of the things that we can also do is we can make magic by the days of the week. And each one of the days of the week has specific intentions, specific, they're ruled by specific planets, different herbs, different crystals. And so for this specific blend, for our purification and protection blend, we are going to want to tap into the days of the week. So we're going to want to blend our purification and protection blend on a Tuesday. So today is Monday. Yes, it is Monday. My brain's not working. But so tomorrow, if you want, you can blend up this specific blend. And so one of the reasons why we're wanting to do that is because we're adding extra energy to this blend if we're blending it on a Tuesday. You can blend it any day of the week that you want. It's really like, it will still be effective, but if you want it, kind of add a little extra oomph to it, definitely focus on, making sure that you do that on a Tuesday. And I'll tell you why. So Tuesday is ruled by Mars, which, as we know, is an aggressive kind of protective planet. It's Tuesday is basically symbolic for aggression, breaking negative spells, courage, protection, wards, success, strength, and victory. So all of those energies are kind of ruled over by Tuesday. So Tuesday would be a really, really, really good day for that blend specifically to be created. And the other thing that you can do too, and this is what I do quite often, is I will make my blend on a Tuesday and make a kind of decent size so that it's already imbued with that energy. And then you can use it all week long if you want. So mix up a good size blend, maybe tomorrow, something that you can use maybe for the next couple weeks, and just have it on, have some of it on deck in case you ever need to kind of clear stuff out. But just know that even mixing it on that specific day, that will imbue it, and you'll be able to tap into that energy anytime you burn it, regardless of what day it is. So remember, Tuesday is the day that we want to make our protection and purification blend. So the next one that we're going to be making from our 7 herbs is going to be for love. And this is one that I like to create for self-love. It can be for relationships, but it's going to be focused around the idea of love. So we're going to want to blend up a mix using our chamomile, rosemary, and lavender. So chamomile, the properties of chamomile, the magical properties of chamomile, is that it, again, on top of bringing peace, it also brings love. So it's really wonderful for bringing in those loving energies. Rosemary is really wonderful for love and lust. It's kind of it's a herb that's always been used specifically in love spells. So it's really wonderful for that. And then finally, lavender, when it's around, it brings and helps manifest love. So it's a really nice flower to work with when you're doing any kind of love magic. And again, we don't want to necessarily, we've kind of talked about the ethics of magic. We aren't necessarily intending this as a spell directed at any one person in particular, but if we want to kind of bring some more love into our life, whether it's in our marriages or even if you're single or even if it's just self-love, this is a really nice blend to make, and it smells amazing. It smells so good. It's one of my favorites. So for our love blend, which again is chamomile, rosemary, and lavender, we are going to want to mix that on a Friday. So Fridays are ruled by Venus, which, as we know, is all about love. And the best way to kind of describe it is Fridays are really good for working beauty, harmony, love, marriage, lust, passion, and romance. So that's a really good day to kind of mix up a batch of this. And again, if you've got some in a jar, just leave it on your shelf, and you can burn it any day of the week at that point, but just know that it's already absorbed all of that energy. So there we go. We have our very first one, which is purification and protection, and we have love. And finally, the next blend that we're going to be able to make is going to be magic. And that's going to help us heighten our magic. It's going to help us get into a magical mood. It will be really nice if you're doing meditation and you want to cleanse your space and kind of get yourself in the right headspace. Hold on, I have an alert that popped up and I need to tell it to go away. All right, so magic, again, is our third one. And for that one, we will want to work with our mugwort, our echinacea. Oh God, I keep doing that. I'm sorry, you guys. Our echinacea and our lavender. So mugwort, as we know, burn it in small doses. I just prefer to burn it in small doses. I don't like working with too much of it. Mugwort is a really, really wonderful, powerful plant to work with, but it's also in the right dosage can be toxic. So for people, if you drink, that was Pete. He's sleeping over there and he's just snored so loud. I can't even believe it. But yeah, so If you're a kind of person who likes to drink mugwort tea often, or you burn it around your home quite often, just be aware that, you know, with the right amount of doses, it can be toxic. It can cause liver damage. So we don't want to work with it too much. But for this, it's fine. We're going to have a little pinch of mugwort in there, and that's going to help bring in psychic energy, magical energy, mystical energy. Our echinacea is going to bring in our energy of effectiveness. So it's very effective. It's a very rooted and grounded herb, and it tells our magic you're going to work. And so it's wonderful to kind of sprinkle in when we're working with any kind of magical energy. And then finally, again, lavender. We're going to bring in a lavender again for that protective element. When we're working magic, it's really good to kind of have that protection around us. That's why we create sacred circles, why we have safe spaces when we're practicing magic. So use your lavender for protection. And the lavender will help cut the kind of smells of mugwort and echinacea, which can kind of have a soury smell to it. The lavender will help bring in a nice floral scent. And we're going to want to mix that on a Monday. So we're going to mix it on a Monday, because Monday is ruled by the moon. And as we know, the moon is the planet of mysticism and feminine energies and the divine. And so, yeah, focus on mixing that blend on a Monday. So maybe next week, maybe a week from today, you'll be able to mix that blend. And Mondays are really the rulers of divination, fairy magic, ritual, intuition, intention, and wisdom. So those would be really wonderful times to mix those specific blends. So Michelle's asking, should we not drink mugwort tea? There's a lot of people who kind of go back and forth with drinking mugwort tea. A mugwort tea is relatively safe unless you're pregnant. You shouldn't handle pretty much any herbs if you're pregnant, or if you have allergies. So just be kind of smart about what you're working with and how you're working with it. But mugwort, so a lot of people will drink mugwort tea, especially before meditation, and it helps to kind of open up their third eye and put them into a mystical mindset. And it's wonderful for that. But again, if you were to drink mugwort tea every day for, you know, a year, there's a possibility that you could do damage to your body. And that's because mugwort isn't intended to be used like that. So when we're talking about, you know, being smart about how we use herbs, just be smart. Do your research. If you're allergy prone, or you're the kind of person who, you know, is more open to kind of being, let's say you have a really sensitive stomach, or you're just an overall kind of sick person, as weird as that sounds, but like some people, you know, they're kind of more prone to getting nauseous if they eat something weird, or if you're sensitive, just be aware of what you're working with. And mugwort is a wonderful herb that we should work with respect. But we should also be very, burning it outside is great. We should just be very aware of the possibilities of what happens with specific herbs, and just be smart about them. That's all. Don't be afraid of them. They're here for us to work with, but just be smart. And, you know, every witch is smart. Every witch is wise, and we know what we're working with. We know the energies that we're working with, but we're also not afraid of them, and we work alongside them and with them. So we can have a beautiful relationship with mugwort as long as we respect it and understand our limitations with it. And I think that's probably the best way to look at it. I'm going to drink some more tea. I love herb magic too. It's my favorite. It's my absolute favorite topic. And I promise, for those of you who don't really care about plants and stuff like that, I'll be talking about a lot of different fun stuff. I have a lot of really fun stuff planned. But yeah, I figured focusing on herbal magic in the beginning, at least dedicating some time to it, was probably a good idea. So those are your 3 blends. Mix them, play with herbs, and mix and match and have fun. And but again, because we're kind of in the beginning stages, let's stick with those 7 specific herbs and really master them and learn as much as we can about them. And then once we've kind of figured that out and we've learned enough about them, we're going to add 7 more, and we're just going to keep growing and growing and growing until we're geniuses and we know everything about herbal magic that you could possibly ever need to know. So yeah, I wrote here just before we kind of move on to the next stage. Once again, develop respect for the magic of the plant kingdom. But try these blends out and don't be afraid. So really, it's just we're learning how to work with these energies. These energies are ancient, and our ancestors have worked with them, and people have worked with them across countless cultures, time periods, and it's a beautiful thing for us to be able to continue working with them today, especially in a magical capacity. So do not be afraid. Yeah, it's very good for keeping bugs away. There's a lot of, mint is really lovely for keeping bugs away. Rosemary is really good for keeping bugs away. There's a lot of really awesome plants that are fantastic at keeping bugs and kind of critters. If you have mice, there's a lot of really good sprays that you can make, and they're non-toxic, at least chemically wise, that kind of thing. So there's lots of fun that we're going to have with herbs. So let's move on to our next stage, and that is tools. I realize, I think we've talked about tools. If I'm remembering correctly, I don't know if we have talked about tools. And the way that I'm going to do this is a little different. So initially I thought I kind of want to teach everyone about magical tools, but I didn't want to kind of rush through it, because there is so much depth to all of the things that we're talking about. And I kind of want to be able to dedicate time to really studying a lot of these things. And so the way that I thought I would kind of continue, structuring these classes, since we are going to kind of dedicate certain parts of the class to specific things like herbs, for instance, and when we're ready, we'll move on to 7 new different herbs and add those to the mix. So I thought it might be kind of fun with tools to focus each class on one specific tool and really talk to you guys about the history of them and why we use them and why they're important symbolically in magic, and also kind of talking a little bit about Wicca, which is we've talked about what Wicca is, and how it how magic sort of relates to Wicca, and how some of these tools specifically are used for Wicca. If you're not Wiccan, you're not interested in Wicca whatsoever, that's totally cool. You can still practice magic and be a magic practitioner. You can still be a witch. You can still be a pagan. You can still be all of these things. I just figured, because tools are something that is very rooted in Wicca, it might be interesting to kind of give you a bit more information about why they apply to Wicca. But again, remember, you do not have to be Wiccan to practice magic, to be a witch, to do any of these things, to use tools whatsoever. I just think that it might be a little interesting to give you guys a bit more context. So I couldn't think of a cool name for the segment, because I'm really bad at coming up with names, as you can tell. So I just thought I'd call them tools. I'm sorry that it's super lame, but that's what it's called. So for our new segment, tools, we're going to feature one tool per class and talk about its history, why we use it, why we have it. So one of the things that I'll talk about at first is, we're going to feature one tool per class, and we're going to get the full picture and give them the time and attention that they deserve. Okay, so tools. Some of the most practiced witches and magic practitioners don't use tools at all. Tools are an extension of us and of our magic. They help us visualize, and they help us put ourselves in the right headspace for spell casting and ritual. So yeah, it's weird. Tools are very interesting. There is a lot within the kind of magic community. There's a lot of differences between whether people use tools in magic or not. And some magic practitioners, because they've been practicing for so long and they know how to raise and direct energy, they just don't need to work with tools. And that's totally cool. You don't have to work with tools if you don't want to. As someone, I work with every tool that I worked with since, the very beginning. I've been a practicing witch for 22 years at this point. So tools for me are important. They're an integral part of my magical practice. I love tools because they're awesome and they're fun and they help me get in the right headspace. And I'm 1,000,000,000% sure that they will help you get in the right headspace. So don't be afraid of tools. They're so much fun. And also don't rush out and feel like you have to buy every single tool right now. Let them come to you. Give yourself time. I only acquired the wand that I feel as if I'm going to work with for the rest of my life less than, 4 months ago. So, and again, 22 years I've been practicing magic. So don't feel like you need to rush out and buy everything right now. Let everything kind of come to you. So I've been practicing magic for a long time, and I still use all my tools. They're an integral part of my magic. With that being said, you don't have to use them if you don't want to, but I feel like you're missing out if you don't, because they're fun. So our first magical tools that we're going to be talking about is the cauldron. And I thought the cauldron is one of the most highly recognized kind of magical tools, pretty much because of pop culture and the kind of stereotypical idea of what a witch is, that we have cauldrons and brooms, and we do have all of those things, but they're a lot less kind of creepy and spooky, unless they are creepy and spooky, and that's totally fine too. So the cauldron is one of the most famous tools thanks to pop culture. But this ancient vessel is steeped in the magical tradition. And so, yeah, the cauldron isn't something that just sort of became popular, within the past 100 years. The cauldron is a tool that magic practitioners and witches have been using forever. We've always used them. So the cauldron is the container in which magical transformation happens. I love that sentence so much. So the cauldron is a container in which magical transformation happens. I love that Amanda has a pink cauldron. I love that so much. That's the cutest thing ever. Yeah, and like here, I'll show you guys. Oh gosh, I brought my cauldron to show you guys. So I've had a billion different cauldrons of all shapes and sizes, and I kind of found that I've found the size and the shape that I like. And that's just because I feel as if it's big enough. It's big enough that if I have to travel with it, I can travel with it, but it's not super small. So it's kind of like this perfect size. So for me, this is my perfect size. It's not too big. It probably holds 2 cups. And then if I have to use something that's smaller, I can use something smaller. If I don't need something that's small and I want something bigger, it's kind of like the perfect size. I can burn all sorts of stuff in here. So this for me is my working cauldron right now. But yeah, you're gonna probably want to work with something that just feels right for you. So with that being said, like I said, the cauldron is the container in which magical transformation happens. So when we are creating transformations magically, when we're creating intention and we're, oh my gosh, did my mouse stop working? Let's see. Trying to see what you guys are saying and I can't see it. Well, I know you're commenting in there, but for some reason my mouse stopped working. Maybe I can refresh this. But yeah, so don't be afraid to get something that's small if you're just sort of starting out and you're not really sure whether or not it's something that you want. Oh my gosh, I don't even know if you guys can still see me here. No, I should still be broadcasting. For some reason, one of my pages stopped working. So I'm not going to be able to see your comments, which is totally fine. As long as I'm still broadcasting, that's all that matters. So, oh no, wait, maybe we're back. I think we're back. Nope, I see you. I see you. Yep, I can see you. Okay, good. So, where was I? The cauldron is a container for magical transformation to happen. So when we're burning pages or if we're burning a piece of paper and we put it into our cauldron and the paper is, burning up the word stress and relieving ourselves from stress in our lives. Or maybe we have a piece of a bay leaf that we've written someone's name on who we want to banish from our lives, and it's burning in that cauldron. It's creating that magical transformation that we're always trying to do when we're practicing magic. So as I mentioned earlier, in Wicca, the cauldron is a symbol of the goddess. So, we've talked about what Wicca is in earlier classes. Wicca is nature-based religion. It's a neo-pagan based religion. Nature-based religion that for some Wiccans, they worship the goddess and the god. They worship the feminine divine and the masculine divine. So for Wiccans and for people who practice Wicca, and for a lot of pagans also, the cauldron is a symbol of the goddess. It's the symbol of the goddess's womb. And so for, thousands of years, it wasn't, Wicca is a relatively new religion. But pagans and pagan kind of nature-based religions, which have been around for a bazillion years, if that's a word. They've also always used the cauldron as a symbol for fertility, for the womb of the earth. So it's a beautiful, beautiful tool. And I'm kind of loving the fact that I get to kind of give you guys the context for why we use these tools. So we're not just using a cauldron because it's cool and it's awesome to burn stuff in, but there's a really beautiful, deeply rooted spiritual symbolism behind the actual object itself and why we use that specific object in magic. Because really we could have any kind of container that we could throw stuff into and burn, but the cauldron, the symbolism behind why we use the cauldron is so beautiful and so magical. And it's something, again, that we've, as magic practitioners have tapping into it for a long time. So in Wicca, the cauldron is a symbol of the goddess. The cauldron is one of the central tools on Wiccan altars, on altars just in general, that represent the divine feminine. Again, they represent the womb. I have a little cauldron candle here too, which is the cutest thing ever. So it's symbolic for the element of water. So if we're wanting to bring in all of the elements into an altar or a sacred space, the cauldron is wonderful for tapping into water energy, for inviting water elementals into our space, and just working with the energy of water in general in our magic. So it's wonderful for that. And it's most often the focal point of our spell work because, again, so much of our spell work has to do with burning and creating a space for that transformation to happen. So in the spring, the cauldron can be filled with flowers and water, which is a really beautiful kind of, again, symbolism for the abundance that's happening in the world or in our environment at that point in time. But in the wintertime, we can burn small fires in our cauldron, which are symbolic for the upcoming, we're basically hoping that the warm weather will be coming soon. So when we're burning small fires in the winter, we're dreaming of kind of warmer days, but we're also appeasing the elements and asking them to maybe bring summer a little bit sooner. And a lot of the time that was done because our ancestors didn't have awesome heated blankets and stuff like that. And they were really cold and hungry. And so they were hoping that summer happened earlier. And one of the things that they would do would be to have specific rituals and fires set aside, as a celebration to hope that the planet would, or the goddess would, bring us summer a little bit faster. So, so where was I? Yep. So we can do that. So traditionally the cauldron, here, and here's mine again. Traditionally, the cauldron would have been made out of iron. Iron is a really wonderful metal to dispel negative energy. It helps to get rid of bad spirits. It is basically a ward, and it banishes kind of negative, mischievous fairy energy. And it's an all-around wonderful metal to work with when we're talking about protection. And so traditionally, the cauldron would be made of iron. The cauldron would also have 3 legs. So specifically 3 legs. You would want your cauldron to have 3 legs. This is symbolic for the goddess and her 3 separate identities. So the maiden, the mother, and the crone. And again, we're working with all of this symbolism is kind of bleeding itself into our magic. So again, traditionally, our cauldron would be made of iron. And it would have 3 legs on the bottom for the maiden, mother, and the crone, which I think is pretty cool. My lid is sliding around all over the place. So yeah, traditionally, iron, I know today it's tough to find iron cauldrons, but it's worth it. If you can find one, really pay attention to what kind of materials your tools are made out of, because that's also really symbolic. So often the cauldron will represent the womb of the goddess, but it can also be used for scrying. Yes, I have a little section, Aldona, at the end, kind of that are my ticks. Well, they're kind of my ticks too, my trips. Oh my God, I can't even speak. Yes, I have some tips on cauldron, handling and all that kind of good stuff. So the cauldron is a very powerful symbol of rebirth. It's incredibly powerful when we're talking about, again, transformation, transforming something from one idea to the next. It's a powerful symbol for rebirth. And symbolically, it is a very, very powerful tool for our magic. So its presence alone on our altar is incredibly symbolic. Again, talking about the idea of working with rebirth, renewal, transformation. And then we're talking about two different, the springtime and the winter. We're kind of covering everything. And it's a very, very powerfully symbolic tool. So if you use your cauldron, if you have a cauldron and you didn't know this information, let yourself see it with new eyes. Bring this new info that you've learned about your cauldron, bring it some of that respect to the tool that you've been using, and think a little bit more. And you can even do a little bit more research if you want to, but think a little bit more about why we symbolically use these tools, and the reason that people who practice magic have been are using these tools for forever. So give the cauldron some props, because it really is such a beautiful, wonderful tool that we can work with in magic, and we should work with in magic. And it brings so much, there's something really cool about having your cauldron in front of you when you're burning your incense, or when you're burning your pages or bay leaves or anything. Just having it in front of you and being able to see the fire crackle or see the smoke rise out of it it's a beautiful, very magical feeling. So it's definitely worth getting a cauldron if you don't have one already. So so it's a very powerful symbol for magic, and the magic that women and men have been practicing for thousands of years. So give the cauldron some props. So I do have a couple of little tips here. Smudge your cauldron often if you can. It's worth it to say, smudging most things, but smudge your cauldron if you can. Save the ashes. Most people don't realize it, but I save every ash that I burn, and that's mostly because I use them for creating black salt. So don't get rid of your ashes. They're like black gold. You want to hold on to them. Keep them in jars. Mason jars are really good because they can get very kind of gummy, and sometimes potentially if it dumped over it would destroy your carpet or your, any material nearby. So keep your ashes in a mason jar, up high, away from kids and pets and clumsy people. So don't leave water in a cauldron for too long, because it will rust, and it will rust super fast. I will usually, if I have water in my cauldron, it will be during the ritual, and then I'll take the water outside and get rid of it. And just because I have literally destroyed so many of them, accidentally leaving a little bit too much water on the bottom, or just, if you buy it, you probably don't want to have to buy another one. So just, keep that in mind. Because they will get rusty. So for cauldrons getting too hot, one of the recommendations that I do is, Terry said in there that she uses a tiny pot holder. That works really well. But my best suggestion would be to put some sand in the bottom of your cauldron before you put your charcoal on top of it. And the sand is just going to absorb some of that heat, but it's also going to stop the charcoal from potentially kind of charring or burning the inside of the cauldron. Sand is really wonderful for that. So if you can find some white sand, any kind of sand will do, but it'll help absorb some of that heat, because I know they do get really hot on the bottom specifically. And if you don't have a little handle, you'll burn yourself. I always have sand in the bottom of mine, but I also, again, pot holder is not a bad idea. I also have something small nearby, just in case it ever gets too hot, because it can get really hot. You can imagine that's a hot piece of charcoal just sitting right up against sitting right up against metal, and that can hurt really bad if you burn yourself. So try some sand. And then if the sand doesn't work, I would say maybe look, and it sucks, but maybe look to buy a little higher grade cauldron, because again, I know some of the ones that I've had, they're very thin metal, and it's really doing nothing to kind of help protect you against potentially burning your hand or even your furniture. Like, you don't want, I've had so many mishaps with it. So try to find one that's a bit thicker on the bottom, just in case. But sand should work fine. I would try sand first. So that's what we've got for the cauldron and for tools. Yay! So we're going to talk about another tool next class, and we'll talk a little bit more about herbs, but I think I might introduce 7 new herbs into the next class also. And And then I have another idea that I have, another fun idea that I've got that I'm going to kind of throw in there too. So for the big announcement, I'm going to need to take a sip of my tea for this. So I waited to the very end of class for the big announcement so we could kind of focus on class and then the announcement. So the big announcement is the Crone is going back next month, which is a big deal. As most of you know, I don't need to tell any of you this. So we have been, we've had a lot of time to think about this, and we've done a lot of research, and we are ready to do it, and she's ready to do it. And it feels like next month, you know, we've done a lot of work to get it up to this point, and a lot of research to get up to this point, and it is time, and it's time for us to bring her home. So the Crone is going back next month. That's the big announcement. So I am going to be performing a ritual in the woods, which is going to be big for me. I mean, I'm ready and I'm prepared, and I've been preparing myself for a long time, and I know what I'm doing. So I'm pretty confident, and I don't feel as if I have too much to worry about, but at the same time, I'm being cautious and smart. So I will be performing a ritual to essentially unbind the negative stuff from her before we bury her, because we don't want to just take her and dump her in a hole in the ground, because there's clearly suffering happening, but we're going to be doing it in a very, very smart way. Not, you know, again, this is something that I've been working on for a long time. So here's where I need your help. I need the help of all my Magic of the Month people, because this month's Magic of the Month, which is going to ship out next week, is going to come with some extra stuff in them for you. And that will be because I'm looking at my notes here just so I don't forget anything. I'm basically going to be asking Magic of the Month to be performing a group ritual at the same time that I am in the woods performing my ritual. And that is basically going to be to help me. It's basically going to be to help me, to aid me while I'm doing this. You're going to be lending energy. You're going to be helping to basically do something that isn't going to be dangerous. And that's the next thing that I wanted to say. This will be safe for you. We will in no way be in any danger. Basically, you're aiding the ritual that I'm doing, but from, you know, will be for you will be safe. I would never put anybody else potentially at any kind of risk. And the other thing is, you're 1,000,000,000% okay to say no, that you don't want to do it. And then all you have to do is just get rid of the extra things that are going to be in your Magic of the Month. So don't feel like you have to do this if it's something that you're not comfortable doing. But if you are comfortable doing it, basically you will be safe. And what you'll be doing is basically going to be lending me your energy, and kind of doing something very symbolic that I will be doing at the same time. So it will be safe for you. You will just be aiding my energy. If you absolutely don't want to do it, you don't have to. But if you do want to do it, there's one thing that I would ask, and it would be potentially during your small ritual that you would be doing again at the same time that I'm going to be doing in the middle of the woods. Can you film yourself, or can you take pictures of the process? And that's basically because what we're doing is historic. We are basically a group of magic practitioners and witches all across the country, and we're working together to unbind and basically break a curse. And so from our perspective, we want to have as much documentation of that going on as possible. So even if it's literally just you putting your phone recording next to your hands while you're doing the ritual that you're going to be doing, and then sending it to us, that would be so unbelievably helpful for us to be able to have documentation of that. And again, that's because what we're doing is historic. No one has ever done this before. So this is literally history in the making, and we want to be able to document as much of that as we possibly can. So So yeah, if you can take pictures or even just, you know, filming it would be unbelievable. Because we're, again, witches and magic practitioners all across the country that are coming together to help break a curse. So basically that's what's happening, and it's been a long time in the making. So I'm ready, and I'm excited about it, and I think that it's going to be a big deal. And I feel like she's ready, and I feel like it's time. So we're gonna have, this is kind of me just telling this to you guys now. I know there's not all Magic of the Month Club people are in there, but this is sort of my first us kind of talking about it at first. We're going to be announcing a live investigation with the new object in the next couple of days. And then we'll be giving everybody way more information. So the specific date, we're still working on what specific date it's going to be. But again, you're going to know every detail. Your instructions this month are going to come with separate instructions about the ritual that you would be performing. So you're going to have all your bases covered. Don't worry. You're not going to kind of be up in the air. And then basically, I don't know if we'll have internet connection because we are going to be in the middle of nowhere, but I'll make sure that if anything were to happen, or if, you know, we had to postpone the ritual for 15 minutes, we'll have someone who's capable of letting everyone know. So we're going to have more information during the live investigation, which we'll have be announcing in the next couple of days. And then I will have everything organized so that you guys will know exactly when, where, how, why, all the above. So don't worry. This is just basically me kind of putting that information out there so that you guys know about kind of what's about to happen. So it's a big deal, and you guys know that. We don't need to say that. You guys know how much of a big deal it is. And I think that I feel confident knowing that I'll have you guys having my back. It'll make me feel a lot more confident than kind of just going in there. So I'm really looking forward to it. And I think she's looking forward to it. And it'll be such a momentous thing to be able to truly relieve, you know, suffering from something. So yeah, I will make sure that everyone is aware of when, where, how, why. You guys are going to know a lot more information about what we're going to be doing next month, again, with the crone in the next couple of days. So don't worry about it. This is, again, just me sort of like giving you the first kind of nugget of information so that people are kind of aware of it. And I think it's going to be wonderful. So that pretty much sums up this class. I hope that you guys learned a lot. I hope that you had fun. And yeah, in the next couple months, you know, we kind of have busy season throughout October and the beginning of November, but then we slow down a lot. So I'll get back to doing classes once a month. Yeah, we won't be kind of skipping months here and there. But yeah, it's going to, it's the next couple of months are going to be pretty crazy and pretty unbelievable. And you guys are involved in all of it. So I'm really, really looking forward to everything that kind of is coming out, because, you know, we have a lot of surprises. We always have a lot of surprises. Greg's the king of surprises, but we have some pretty cool stuff, coming out. And so thank you guys for hanging out with me on a Monday night. Hopefully, I'll see you next month. If not next month, it will definitely be the month after that. And then once we push through, I'll get back to doing this every single month so that we can keep learning about magic and tools. I feel like I can't change the name now because it's set in stone. So yeah, we'll have some more information for you guys in the next couple of days. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. And we will see you very soon, and we will talk to you guys very, very soon. Good night, everybody. Now I have to hit the button. Bye. Did it work?